on, Bucs fans? Welcome inside the 813, where we bring you two of our writers each and every Thursday to break down the studs and duds, the X factors, and of course, we got to talk about Todd. I am your host, James Yarko, editor-in-chief of the 813.tv, and I am joined by my man, the myth, the legend, Rock Riley, our boots on the ground, our beat reporter over at the 813.tv. Of course, check out all the content that we have for you at the 813.tv and follow on Twitter at the 813TV, at JRCO_Bucs, and at Real Rock Riley. Rock, how are we doing this week?
Doing fantastic. It was a victory Monday. They were off on Tuesday. Wednesday, it's business as usual. And Sunday, it's going to be a very tough task in that very loud environment, which you know very well. You were there last year for the big game. But all in all, it's all good.
That's what we love to hear. And yeah, coming off a huge victory victory Sunday, the Bucs beat the Commanders 37-20. It was a thing of beauty. And so we have studs and duds to kick things off. Plenty of studs to choose from here. I'm going to defer to you first, Rock. Who was your stud of week one?
It's a tough one, James. I was going to go Baker. How could you not? I was going to go Godwin. How could you not? There's so many guys on defense that did a decent job, but you know what? I'm not going by like the stat sheet. I'm going by Mike Evans. Mike Evans, the 2 touchdowns, that catch in the end zone. That DB was draped all over him, and it was also a dime. It was a dot by Baker Mayfield, but I'm telling you, and Liam Cohen, if you saw what he did on the All-22, like, he put the other receivers all over here, and it was one-on-one coverage with Mike Evans. And when you give Mike Evans one-on-one coverage, it's not going to be pretty for you. So you know what, man? Mike Evans with the 2 touchdowns, that incredible catch when he's defended. I'm going with the Hall of Famer, Mike Evans.
I love that. I got a story up on the 813.tv about Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football, who said on Good Morning Football, Mike Evans is the greatest Buccaneer of all time. And, you know, on my show, Locked On Bucs, I said that 2 months ago. I did the top 10 greatest Buccaneers of all time. I had Mike at number 1. Didn't get as much flack as I thought I was going to get for that. No. But, yeah, I mean, think about it. Mike Evans is his next touchdown makes him the Buccaneers' all-time leading scorer. He will pass Martin Gramatica, who he trails by just 2 points. So his next touchdown makes him the all-time leading scorer. The only other player in the top 5 that isn't a kicker is Mike Alstott, who is number 5. Then he is just 3 touchdown catches away from 100. That is something that has only been accomplished by 10 wide receivers in NFL history. And by the end of the season, we're going to be talking about Mike being in the top 10. By the end of this contract, we could be talking about Mike Evans being 6th all time, passing Larry Fitzgerald in touchdown receptions. He's not going to catch Jerry. He's not going to catch Terrell Owens. He's not going to catch, I don't think he'll catch Marvin Harrison. But we're talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer that is going to be one of the greatest and most prolific scoring wide receivers of all time. I love that pick. And to be honest, I had prepared too, because I didn't know which way you were going to go. And I have Godwin as mine with a backup of Baker Mayfield. Because
beautiful.
You're right. Those are the guys. Real quick, before I get into Godwin, I do want to mention a couple of things about Baker. He's going to be our bonus stud here.
Okay.
But, 80% completion percentage, absolutely phenomenal. But 10 of 12 for 145 yards and 3 touchdowns when throwing at or beyond the first down markers. That's an 83.3% completion percentage. On passes of 10 yards or more, Baker was 5 of 7 for 105 and 2 touchdowns. Then something that we've talked about a lot, you've talked about it, I've talked about it, a lot of media talked about it, is how effective the play action game can be. Well, the Bucs ran play action 4 times. That's it. When Baker was not running play action, 22 of 26, that's an 84.6% completion percentage for 244 and 4. So if this Bucs offense is going to mimic the Rams offense at all, Well, the Rams only used 7 play action passes on Matthew Stafford's 51 dropbacks against the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. So that's something to keep an eye on. But let's talk
Good.
about my actual stud here in Chris Godwin. 8 receptions on 8 targets. 5 of those receptions were on third downs and resulted in a first down. And he is the key to keeping drives going for the Buccaneers. Liam Cohen is doing it immediately. And it took Dave Canales half a year and an angry Instagram post to get Godwin involved. And now the offense goes as Chris goes. And I said quite a bit leading up to the season that Godwin was going to have a huge year because of the role that he played in Cohen's offense and the fact that he's returning to the slot fully healthy. And although week 1 is just a very small sample size, it looks like we are well on our way to Godwin being the guy that's going to end up leading this team in receptions and yards because of the way he is utilized in this Cohen offense.
I saw Jason. I'm thinking this as you're giving me these stats, and I saw Jason Light today. I'm like, I wonder how much he's going to have to pay Godwin because Godwin is in a contract year. How could they have 3 at the highest paid in their position? But no, he was in a real good mood today. Talked to him today, and he was talking about like the environment and the hand signals and things like that, and the silent count. But why wouldn't he be in a good mood? And you're right. There was that anger. That was his wife. Do you remember that? That was his wife that was angry, and then it changed. But no, Godwin, they're on pay. Both of them, man. And then you add on McMillan. And don't forget about Trey Palmer. So could be a very, very good year, but we don't want to overreact, do we, James? After only 1 week.
No, can't overreact. But I mean, you take a look at what Godwin did. It took him until week 2 to get that 8th reception and that 80th receiving yard. Only 3 games last year did he have 8 or more receptions, and only 2 games last year where he had 8 or more receptions, only 3 games where he had 80 or more receiving yards. Wow. He did it right out of the gate. Got that touchdown, which is something that's been elusive for Chris Godwin the last couple of years. We're hoping to see a double-digit touchdown season from him, but you're 100% right. Chris Godwin's price is going to continue to go up. Can they afford to pay Godwin? You can't justify paying him more than Mike Evans, can you? And now you're kind of in that tough situation. I hope they bring him back, but that's something that was kind of a fear in the back of all of our minds going into this season. But Rock, I'm going to talk about my dud here for a minute. And it was actually hard to find a dud this week. I don't think too many players had bad games, but for mine, I'm going with KJ Britt. And I don't think he had an overly poor game, but containing Jaden Daniels in the run game did not go well for a lot of that defense, but especially for KJ Britt. It was the most rushing yards by a rookie quarterback in his NFL debut ever. Britt was the guy that got starts over Devin White last season because he was better against the run and more reliable in those situations than White was, and we didn't really see that on Sunday. Now, Daniels ate the defense for lunch on those run plays and scrambles, and that's not entirely on Britt. A lot of those were broken plays. Pressure started to collapse. Daniels found a lane, took advantage of it, but I expect better out of an inside linebacker in Bowles' defense that doesn't carry the same amount of responsibility that Levante David does. I need to see better out of him. I expect to see better out of him against Detroit, who he played extremely well against in that divisional round, but an underwhelming performance by Britt, in my opinion.
This is going to be crazy. I can't believe that I'm actually going to say this, but Tristan Worfs did not play a Tristan Wirfs game. Maybe it's because the expectations in the bar is so high. We're expecting him to be damn near perfect every time. And there were times in that game where he was getting pushed back. He wasn't, he just wasn't doing a good job. And there were a couple of times in training camp, believe it or not, that I saw that. Now, look, to call him a dud, Cody Mauch maybe on the same side. If you look at the numbers, and Baker Mayfield said the offensive line did a really, really good job, but I need Tristan Wirfs to get back. Maybe it's because he didn't play hardly any snaps. I think, James, he played 8 snaps. But there's a lot of guys in the first week around the NFL that didn't play in preseason games. For Tristan Wirfs' ability, being one of the best tackles in the game, he played a dud of a game, being that he's that good. I know it's crazy to say it, but I saw it. That's what I saw.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. You know, the offensive line had a lot of ups and downs. Graham Barton had some solid moments, but also had some you look like a rookie moments. But
Yes.
I remember pointing out, I think it was on Twitter, that the only sack given up by the Buccaneers offensive line in this game was given up by Tristan Worfs. And that's not something that we generally see.
Ever
So
see.
hopefully it was a little bit of the rust,
Yeah.
and it's not a looming issue. I don't think it will be. Tristan Wirfs, like you say, he's one of, if not the best left tackle in the game. You're going to lose a rep now and then. You're going to have a little bit of a rougher game every now and again. But I expect Tristan to definitely be up for the challenge that the Detroit Lions face. All right. Let's talk about Todd for a little bit. We love talking about Todd on Inside the 813. And Todd went from I'm excited to I'm excited. He was very, very reserved, I
Yes.
guess is the best way to
Yeah.
put it. But you were there Wednesday, Rock, and you got to see him. You got to talk to him a little bit. What's going on with Todd Bowles?
Yeah, he was I don't know if it's the injuries. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's watching the tape of Detroit and seeing all the weapons that they have and how he was saying, like, we can't afford another injury there. Talking about Keenan Isaac, who they brought back. Why? Because he knows the system. But he goes, we can't afford any more injuries there. So he was not Todd. Okay, so Friday before the game, he did that on Thursday, I believe. The I'm excited, and everybody was laughing. So I said to him on Friday, I said, "Are you as excited, Todd?" And he goes, "I'll give you my stoic look." And everybody laughed, and okay, it was before the game, but today he just seemed on edge. I don't know what it was. He was kind of short with his answers. So for me, you don't want to go into Detroit on Sunday when you get there Sunday morning with the team. Show that confidence, Todd. Don't have that trepidation. These guys are out. Maybe he knows more about Kalijah Cansey. We asked about Zion McCullum, and he said, because he was out there, but he had a non-contact jersey on, and he's like, yeah, he ran around, but I don't know. I don't know what the concussion. What about Logan Hall? He ran around a little bit. I don't know. And then they asked him about what could you take from last year being in Detroit and losing that game in the playoffs, and he's like, nothing. This is a new year. We're 1-0. We're trying to be 2-0. So, I don't mind that, but go in, relax. Be a little bit more loose. And the team will play. You don't want to go in there too tight, Todd. That's how I want to see Todd. Whatever it's going to take on Saturday night in Detroit in that hotel. Get him more relaxed.
Yeah, and you got to think 1 week into the season, you lost, one of your defensive linemen to injured reserve. You have one of your stud defensive linemen with the same injury that he had last year with that calf. Same calf that caused him to miss time. Yeah, Logan Hall is back, but you just lost Antoine Winfield Jr. You lost the heart and the soul of the back end of that defense. I would say Antoine and Levante are the two unquestioned, like, top defensive players for this team, both on the field and in the locker room. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel for corners. So I could see how Todd could be a little bit on edge, a little bit
no doubt.
kind of frustrated, maybe a
Right.
little stressed, because now you're going into a hostile environment where you faced Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, who exploded. One of the best tight ends in the league in Sam Laporta. One of the best, if not the best, running back tandem in the NFL in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. A potential MVP candidate in Jared Goff. You are facing a absolute juggernaut of a team in their house, coming off of a close win over the Los Angeles Rams. So I could see how he'd be a little tense, a little, maybe he needs to sit down with Bruce, maybe, crack open a little bit of that Crown and just sip and relax and kind of let that stress unroll. But you're 100% right. You don't want the head coach of your team being that kind of rigid and that kind of stress when that's not his normal personality, because the players are going to feed off of that. So if he's loose, he lets it kind of roll off of his bag. Look, I know we don't have our full complement, but I'm going to have these guys prepared. Keenan Isaac knows what he's doing. Christian Izien knows what he's doing. we brought in Jordan Whitehead, so now the back end is still all right. It's not as great as it is with Antoine, but we're all right. Kind of have that confidence and that attitude of, look, these are my players. This is my defense. I don't care where we're playing. I don't care who we're playing. We're going to get the job done, and that's what I'd like to see more out of Todd Bowles. I'm with you 100%.
Anything else on Todd that you were going to bring up, or was that it?
I think
Todd is Todd.
We're good on Todd.
Okay,
for
good
this
on
week.
Todd.
I'll say, for all the adversity, just to kind of rewind the clock a little bit.
Yeah.
For all the adversity that defense faced against Washington in week 1, all the injuries, coming in shorthanded against an unknown commodity in Jaden Daniels, and although he ran wild, that defense did a fantastic job. Todd Bowles called a fantastic game against them. Shut down Terry McLaurin completely. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, they were not factors in the run game. I know Robinson had a rushing touchdown, but by and large, the run game outside of Daniels was completely ineffective. Even without 3 corners and 2 defensive linemen, Todd Bowles, fantastic job against Washington. Want to see more of it against Detroit this week. Let's jump into the X Factor, Rock, and we're going to take a look at these guys that we pinpointed the Bucs need a big game out of if they are going to get the upset, the big upset. The Lions are 7-point home favorites in this one. Who is your X Factor that has to step up for the Bucs this week?
Rachaad White, okay. Not as a receiver. Oh my God. Baker was talking about today. Rachaad White is different in a running back. He goes, when you throw him the ball, it's just like throwing it to a wide receiver. It's natural. And he goes, a lot of running backs are not like that when they're catching balls out of the backfield, but they need him to have a good game. You can't just say, well, Bucky Irving, we'll get 70 yards from him. That's not going to happen every game. Now the tape is out on Bucky Irving. Okay. So defensive coordinators are going to start planning accordingly. And Rachaad is ready. He's been locked in. I want to see a little bit more. There were holes, and he was hitting it faster, but they were also closing a little bit faster. So I think you're going to need the running game in this hostile environment. Make sure they were working today on the silent count. That's all I can say, but it's hard to mimic that. It really is. And they were saying that is one of the loudest places, man. It really is. You were there. You cannot hear. Godwin said we could not hear at all. So it's going to be a big factor. They might have to run that football. That's the X factor to me. Rachaad White.
Yeah, and I love that. And yeah, that place is loud. I mean, I was sitting less than a foot away from the person next to me. We were having to text each other to be able to carry on a conversation. That place is ridiculous. If you're going, bring some earplugs, because that thing gets louder than a concert when you're sitting next to the speakers. I promise you that. But one of the things that I noticed about the run game, and there's already people talking about, Bucky should get the start over Rachaad. That's ridiculous. There's no running back controversy. Stop pitting these guys against each other. These guys are going to work in tandem with one another. And I firmly believe that if some of the holes that opened up for Bucky had opened up the same way for Rachaad, we would have gotten similar results. If Rachaad happened to be on that field when the Commanders ran a jailbreak blitz and Bucky got a 31-yard run, Rachaad could have broken off 31 yards on that play. You or I could have gotten 12. And we're old men. So,
good point though.
When you take a look at the way these two ran the ball, it really wasn't dissimilar to the middle left. Both of them ran for negative yards, but on the middle right, off of Barton, in between Barton and Malk, outside of that 31-yard carry, let's remove that.
Right.
But both of those guys averaged 5 yards a carry on the middle right.
Good stat.
So they were running pretty similarly. It just so happened that Bucky had a little bit better opportunity than Rachaad did, especially late in that game. The Commanders were starting to bring more and try to get more pressure. It opened things up a little bit more for Bucky, but no, Rachaad and Bucky in his own right are going to be key for this game. Control the clock,
Yes.
control possession,
Good point.
end in points, just like you did against Washington. One punt against Washington. Probably going to have a few more against Detroit. Hopefully, Camarda improves on the yards per punt compared to what we've seen lately. But you got to control that clock and keep the Lions' offense on the sideline. My X factor for this one is Jamel Dean. The last time that these two teams faced off at Ford Field, Dean had a chance early in that game to take points away from the Lions and dropped an interception in the end zone. That could have set the tone for the entire game. If I remember correctly, that was the first possession of the game. Now he has to take on a very motivated Amon-Ra St. Brown, who finished with 77 yards and a touchdown on 8 receptions in that divisional round game. Against the Bucs last season, over 2 games, 20 receptions, 201 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Last week, he had 3 receptions for 13 yards on 6 targets. That is not what we've come to expect from Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that is not what he expects from himself. So he and Jared Goff are going to look to make up for that performance against this beaten-up Bucs secondary. Dean has to be at his absolute best in order to limit St. Brown's production, because if he gets going, the Lions are going to be near impossible to stop. Now, going back to that divisional round, Lions receivers had 0 receptions on 4 targets when Dean was playing press coverage.
Interesting.
He's got to be every bit as effective this time around. Get in these guys' faces, pop them quickly, take away the timing that Goff has with whether it's Amon-Ra or Jameson Williams, but Dean has to elevate his play to the best we've ever seen. They are counting on him to go from CB2 to CB1. You are going against one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've got to get these guys off their spots. You've got to jam them early, and you have got to really put the pressure on anybody else to beat the Bucs outside of Amon-Ra.
Boy, you hit it on the head. I mean, they really do have weapons, and you're right. St. Brown, he is going to be ticked off because he didn't do anything in this last game. And Jameson Williams, man, he has got some speed. Oh, yeah. That deep threat. No, it's going to be a challenge. That's a good one, James. That's a real good one.
Yeah, I would almost be willing to bet that we're going to see Christian Izien play a little bit of center field in this one. And his sole purpose, if he's the one starting back there at safety alongside Jordan Whitehead, it's going to be Todd sitting him down saying, look, hey, Jameson Williams does not get behind you at all, ever.
Right.
If you have to put 10 yards in between you and him backpedaling, he does not get behind you ever. If he catches the ball, take the angle, get him down, but they are not going to be giving up a explosive touchdown pass to Jameson Williams the way the Rams did in this one.
Yeah.
So it's a tough task to have when you don't have Kalijah Cansey, we think, and you definitely don't have Antoine Winfield Jr.
Right. No, I will say this. I saw him in the locker room. He was walking around pretty good. Now, he had come out of the shower. He was on the phone, so there was nothing on there was no rap. But again, he had come out of the shower, but he was walking pretty good. So for Buccaneer fans, hopefully it won't be too long. Maybe 2-3 weeks. Maybe that's it. But that was a good sign, walking at least today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Bucs fans want to hear. All right, that is going to do it for this week inside the 813. Again, check out all the content and shows available right here on the 813.tv. Follow on Twitter at the 813TV, at JARCO_Bucs, at Real Rock Riley. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel with those notifications turned on. You'll know every time one of our shows drop. We got Fully Loaded. We got Loose Cannons. We got the Moneyline Dogs. We got shows after shows after shows. We got the NFL Insider Show with Jake Arians and Benjamin Albright. So you're going to want those notifications turned on so you know every time we have something new for you here at the 813. But thank you for taking a trip with us inside the 813.